Hello and happy New Year's from the Road to the Garden podcast. We did it. We got through 2022. We're into 2023 and New Year kind of started with a bang in the Big East. We got some good games on the way out. Some interesting storylines right off the bat here in the new year, and I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. Happy New Year to all of our Road to the Garden and Big East fans. We are primed for an outstanding New Year.
Before we get into this, just a reminder: if you're looking to go to any Big East games this year, we've teamed up with SeatGeek this season to get you the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download the app, and use code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. Use that. Go get yourself some Big East tickets. If you want to go see your team, that's the perfect time to do it. Also, just a reminder, this podcast is presented by House Enterprise and in partnership with House of College Hoops. Head over to our site, house-enterprise.com for more info. Tommy, I know we got some storylines to talk about here, but I think we wanted to start off the new year with some New Year's resolutions. We picked some for each of these teams in the conference, and I think we're just going to go through them and talk about what we want to see from them this year.
Yeah, I like that. 2 professional ad reads. I wish we were sponsored by Pedialyte. I know me and a lot of other Big East fans could use some after these holidays. But, yeah, there are a lot of teams that are primed for some good New Year's resolutions. And let's get right into it. Which one do you want to start with?
You know what? I think we'll just kind of go – we'll just pick them. I think you're up first here. We can alternate and just pick any from the list that you have there, any of the ones that you like.
All right. I'll start off with a fun one. For Creighton, I have Creighton on my end, and it's to stop kissing girls with mono. No, but seriously, it's to get back on track offensively. Ryan Kalkbrenner needs to stay healthy. You see how important he is to this team when he's out there. They are a good offensive team. They've scored 90 points in 4 out of their first 14 games, all with Kalkbrenner in the lineup. When they went on their real bad losing skid, it started on offense. Guys like Farabello have been underwhelming. They are figuring out in these 2 games. They scored 78 and 80 points respectively, being Butler and DePaul. But they need to get back into a groove, and Doug McDermott is a coach that can do it. Although they finished sub 100 last year in KenPom offensive efficiency, that was McDermott's first sub 50 season since 2015. So McDermott's a good coach. They have everything that they need. They just need to get back on track offensively, and everything else will figure itself out.
I like it. I think I'm going to stick at the top of the conference here and go with the number 4 team in the country now, the UConn Huskies. My New Year's resolution for them, take a chill pill. In general. First of all, that applies to Andre Jackson here, who fired up 12 3-pointers against Xavier, and I know we're going to talk about that game, but he took almost as many threes as the entire Xavier team, and he is not a good enough shooter to be doing that. And I think this applies to the whole team. I think they're a really good basketball team. They are one of the best in the country. They probably just need to get back to business and calm things down, because they've had a couple games in a row here that I think they've gotten away from what it is that they like to do. This lesson also applies to Dan Hurley, who got himself a nice little technical at the end of that one for no real reason. And it was probably we saw a lot of technicals this weekend in the Big East. The DePaul Providence game had, I believe, 5 of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, as part of that's Big East officiating, but also it's college basketball has bad officiating. You need to be able to control yourself at the end of games. And Dan Hurley is a very good coach. I don't want to see UConn end its season prematurely because something like that happens in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, as soon as you said chill pill, that's exactly where I went. The T wasn't the reason UConn lost, but it's just inexcusable from Dan Hurley, a veteran coach. You just can't have that. Moving on, I'm going to go to St. John's. Really a tale of 2 seasons here, all in one season. So my New Year's resolution for St. John's and the Red Storm is to stop the bleeding, and quickly. I didn't watch a whole lot of that mic'd up game. But when I did, Mike Anderson's performance on the sideline as compared to Sean Miller's was like borderline comical. Mm-hmm. They started the year 11-1, and they've lost 3 straight, and their upcoming schedule's not easy. It's Marquette, Providence, UConn, Butler, Nova. Those are 5 games that they can lose, and they've lost 3 in a row already. So you can't lose 8 in a row. You need to win at least one, at bare minimum, one of those games, if not 2 or 3.
You mentioned that game against Xavier. I'll pull out my Xavier resolution here. It's pretty simple. Just keep scoring. This offense is unbelievable. With an offense like that, you can beat literally any team in the country as an offense good enough to win a national championship. Keep it going. Keep playing like that, and Xavier's going to be playing for a long, long time this season. They should be playing into late March at the earliest.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Here's a fun one for Marquette. Right. I have no New Year's resolutions for Marquette. I think they just need to keep on doing what they're doing, and I'll explain. So, as bad as the University of Texas is, just as a whole athletic program, their softball coach giving people the bird, Steve Sarkisian flipping out on game day staff, and the mess that is Chris Beard. Oh my God! Shaka Smart coming from that. Although it was a mess, he had everything he had, albeit the controversial recruiting style influenced by that athletic department. But aside from that 1 year at VCU, Shaka hasn't found much success in March. For this year to be different, I think Marquette just needs to keep playing like they're playing right now. They have all the ingredients they need in a recipe to make them. They have the star power, Cam Jones and Oso Ighodaro, the role players that step up. I think Kolek is the best passer in the country, and that might be a hot take. It might not be, but just watching him again, yeah, definitely. Watching him against Villanova was mesmerizing. Stevie Mitchell knows his role, comes off the bench, plays outstanding defense, and he can pop off like he did against Villanova. He had a career high. So I think the coaching needs to stay true, and I think they can make a run to the Sweet 16 like Providence did last year, maybe beyond.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like everything about that. I'm gonna go to a team here, the only team that Marquette has lost to in the Big East so far, and that's the 4-0 in the Big East, Providence Friars. I think the message here is going to be similar to Marquette and similar to what Marquette has done this year, and that's player development. Keep getting these guys going. Friars' top 2 scorers right now are both sophomores, and Bryce Hopkins and Devin Carter. I think both of these guys can take their games to a level we haven't even seen yet, too. And if they're able to keep developing, and these 2 guys can be better players in 2 months than the guys we see right now. I mean, with the guys we see right now, this is a Providence team that can make a lot of noise this season. But if they take even another step during the season here, watch out for Providence. This might be a Providence team that could very well be ranked and could be playing with some of the best teams in the country if those guys do reach that top potential.
I like that one a lot. And you went with your team, so I'm going to go with mine. My Villanova New Year's resolution is to pick up a signature win and to hold the water until Justin Moore comes back. I mean, right now, they can't wait for Justin Moore to get back and to assume everything is going to be rainbows and butterflies when he's back. And this all starts with defense. I'm sick and tired, to be honest with you, of seeing Villanova get up on the RI, whoever they play. It was infuriating in that Marquette game to watch the ball go into the corner and Brandon Slater just stop. And I know that's what he's instructed to do, whatever. That's their game plan. It was their game plan against UConn, and you just let Andre Jackson shoot, which is a decent game plan. He's not a great shooter until he is, and then they beat you. So you have to make those in-game adjustments. It all starts on defense. It looks like – you ever see that episode of Family Guy where Peter's playing that old-school double dribble game? It was like corner 3. That was all the Marquette game. That was the whole game. So, I mean, Villanova's in real danger of missing the NCAA tournament, which would be a failure of the season. So they need to pick up a signature win, and that all starts with defense.
Yeah, I fully agreed with everything you just said there. I'm going to go over to another team that I know we both kind of liked this season more than others, and that's Butler.
Yeah.
My message there is consistency. Butler is just, you never know which Butler team you're going to get. Michael DeRosa has a whole thread on it. This team has like a 20% 3-point shooting differential between wins and losses. And yeah, part of that's if you lose games, it's because you shot worse. But there's a lot of games where you can kind of tell about 10 minutes in what Butler team you're going to be getting. Their first 3 Big East games, they got out to a lead and then let the opponent have a run kind of in the second quarter, and that was it. And they can't stay with them. And that means you need consistency from these guys. They have a lot of players who can play. They don't have a lot of guys who bring it every single night. If they bring it every single night, they can play with just about anybody in the Big East, and they can get some big wins. And they're in the 60s right now in the net. It was a Butler team that can absolutely make the NCAA tournament if it actually plays the way the talent says it can play.
Yeah, and we'll get into that one with Seton Hall one later in that recap. But I feel like Butler and Seton Hall are two of the teams in the conference that could legitimately win or lose any game on any night. They need to find an identity. And actually, you know what? Let me just go into Seton Hall. They do have an identity, and that's that scrappy defense first team that can compete with anyone. But my New Year's resolution for the Pirates is to just find more consistency. The talent is there. They impressed me with that win over St. John's. I did not think that they had that in them from an offensive standpoint. When everything clicked, Kadari Richmond, Alamir Dawes, when everything clicked for them offensively, they looked like a very good team. And it's the same kind of story with Shaheen Holloway as it is like Kyle Neptune of Villanova. Just give them time. At least for Shaheen, he's proven so far that he has what it takes to be successful in March. But Seton Hall just needs to find more consistency, and I think they can make that push for maybe that 5-6 seed in the conference if they figure it out.
Yeah, and I predicted earlier this season, I thought either Butler or Seton Hall would be dancing. Both of those teams still have a chance for that here, but it's giddy up and go time now. This is where you got to make a move. Those are the teams ranked 6th and 7th in the conference in the net too. So they're on the edge. They can do this, but that's got to start happening now. My last team here is Georgetown, and the resolution is pretty simple. It's you get a new coach. I don't know what else you're going to say about this team. They clearly have talent. They have some young players. There's a lot of guys on this team who can be back next year. You need to start building that, and you need to start building that now. We're going to talk about the Georgetown-Butler game a little bit later on, but yeah, Georgetown needs to find a new coach.
Yeah, that was probably the easiest one of the three. It was either find a coach or win a game.
But only one of these seems I don't know if either of them seem likely at the moment.
Yeah, very true. But for me to finish up, I have DePaul. I'm a little bit higher on DePaul than most. I like Tony Stubblefield. I like the talent on the roster. I was looking on Twitter. Was it you that had them ranked like 8th in the conference above Butler?
For the power rankings this week? Yeah. DePaul got a win this week. And we did our power rankings before the Butler-Georgetown game. So just for context here, because I would have put Butler back over DePaul after that. But St. John's has not looked good lately. Butler had lost 3 in a row at the start of conference play and got blown out by Providence heading into that. And DePaul got a win. And DePaul's getting healthier right now. Finally, I think Caleb Murphy should be playing sometime soon. And eventually, they're going to get Nick Ongenda back. So they're kind of trending. It's a bad loss to Providence, but they're competitive at points in that. And I don't think it's a DePaul team that can be competitive in the conference on a good day.
That's actually a perfect segue into my New Year's resolution for DePaul, and it's stay healthy for Stubbs. I'm higher, like I said, I'm higher on DePaul than most. They've been riddled with the injury bug all year. Murphy and Ongenda were supposed to be key contributors. One more injury could be detrimental to this team, but I like the talent on the roster. I like the coach, and they could make that push for the 9th or 8th spot, a place that they're not familiar with, to be quite frank.
Yeah, no, they can absolutely do that. We'll see what DePaul is made of as things keep chugging along here. But let's talk about the biggest story in the Big East this week, and that's UConn finally going down. The Huskies lose their first game of the season on the last day of 2022 at Xavier, and this was a really, really, really good game. It's tied 71 late. And then Xavier makes a run, gets a lead. You get the Dan Hurley technical, 2 free points for Xavier. And UConn just got cold. It was a 12-2 run that Xavier finished the game on. The Huskies made, I think, one of their last 10 shots. 8 of those 10 shots came from deep, and they didn't make a single one of them. I think 4 came on one possession in there. Might have been 3 on one possession, whatever it was. They got offensive rebounds. They got open looks for, I think, 3 different shooters. Nobody could hit the shot. What are your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, on that scoring run, the 12-2 run that you were talking about to end the game, Xavier was 8 of 9 from the free throw line, which is exactly what you're looking for in a winning team, a team that is going to do this again and again and hopefully do it into March. I don't think this game, although UConn's going a little bit cold, I think everyone can see that. It's not damning for UConn. I just think Xavier is that good. The rankings just came out, the new AP Top 25. I haven't seen them yet. Do you know where Xavier's at? They just came out like literally 20 minutes ago.
Number 18.
Yeah. I said high. I think I said high teens in the last podcast we did. So
yeah, I'm a little surprised they were that low. I would have had them in the top 15 for sure.
Yeah. I think you were talking about it before in the New Year's resolution segment, but Xavier's offense is that good. This isn't a damning loss for UConn. It was a winnable game, but these two teams I think are in a tier of their own in this conference right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. What Sean Miller is doing with that offense is ridiculously impressive. I've been so wrong on Sule Boom. I was not optimistic on him coming into the year. He has been fantastic. Colby Jones right now is on a very short list of players, averaging double-digit points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds a game. The last time I checked, there's only 10 of them in all of college basketball right now. So he's doing some really, really good stuff there. He might be gone after this year. He could be in the NBA. Nunji is the player of the week in the Big East this week, playing through some kind of an illness there in that one. And then Zach Fremantle, comeback player of the year in the Big East after what he did. He had the double-double against UConn. Super, super impressive stuff from him.
Yeah. I mean, it's between him and Soriano, and it's really a 2-horse race for comeback player of the year. I mean, it's just absolutely outstanding what's going on with Xavier offensively.
And I think Justin Moore could also be in that conversation depending on what happens.
Oh man, talk to me, Matt. Talk to me. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how much he actually ends up playing and whenever he does come back. But yeah, that's the other horse that I think could be in that race. But continue.
That's what I like to hear. I just don't know if he's going to have enough time. But back to Xavier, Nunji looked good. He had 15 points on 5 of 8 shooting. Xavier didn't even win the battle on the glass. They were outscored in second chance points. They lost the battle on the glass 38-31. But what Xavier really did that took kind of the game away from UConn was they scored a lot of points off turnovers. They scored 18 points off turnovers and kind of dominated offensively in the paint, 40-28 advantage there. So UConn's obviously very talented in the paint. There's not going to be a lot of games where they get out rebounded, and this wasn't one of them, but it just goes to, it's kind of I don't know how to put it, maybe like a double entendre. It goes to show you how good Xavier is on all aspects of the offense and how good UConn can be even when they don't have their best game.
Yeah, and I think that points in the paint is very interesting for me about this one because with Adama Sanogo down there and Donovan Clingan and Andre Jackson can fly around and block shots, you would assume that this would be a very, very good defense in the paint. I mean, Fremantle was working Andre Jackson at points on offense, and Sanogo and Clingan were fine in this game, but Xavier got what they wanted down low, and that is a little bit shocking to me. I thought Xavier would shoot the 3 ball well. I did not think they were going to be able to go inside and have that much success. This is the most points that UConn has allowed in a game this season, and that's by 10. It's not really that close. So, I mean, credit to the players for doing it, credit to Sean Miller, and I think we're going to talk, our game of the week here is going to be UConn at Providence. I think the real interesting thing about that is going to be, was there something that got put on film in this one that other teams are going to be able to exploit? Is this an issue with UConn that other teams are going to be able to follow up on, or is Xavier that good? I think that's kind of the question for me out of this one. I think Xavier is that good. I think the real question is UConn a top 5 team, or is this more of a top 10 team? And they're splitting hairs there. Yeah. But that right there is, and these are differences that are really only going to come up if this team plays like third weekend. Like this is stuff that matters when you get to the Final Four, and usually not earlier than that. One other note on this before we move on, I will say, I looked into this. I went through other Big East teams that have ended up with 1 seeds in March. Basically, every single one of them, I think every single one of them in the new Big East has had a road loss in the Big East around New Year's. All of them. Villanova did it back in 2018. Xavier was also a 1 seed. They lost back-to-back games on the road right after New Year's. Villanova was a 1 seed in 2017. They lost one on the road then. They were a 1 seed in 2015. They lost one on the road around New Year's then. So this is kind of, I guess this is where the speed bump occurs. You get out of winter break. There's enough time that you're established as a threat, and people, you got that bullseye on your back. And road conference games are always tough.
Yeah, for sure. What a stat! You really are the stat man. You just come out of nowhere with this stuff.
Well, I was curious about that, and that's the thing that was interesting to me is that Xavier team ended up with a 1 seed that dropped back-to-back games at Providence and Villanova first week of 2018, or first and second week of 2018. I think it was like the 5th and the 10th of January, and I'm looking at a UConn team right now that still has to go at Providence this week, still has to play Creighton, still has to go at Marquette, I believe, early next week, and it's UConn can drop 2 here. That would not surprise me, and it's not really a slight to UConn. I just wanted to see, all right, are there teams with a similar path that have ended up with a 1 seed? And there are. So I think we also shouldn't overreact too much to a couple losses here.
Yeah, no, not overreacting a lot. I still personally think UConn's a top 5 team. That's a very interesting. You said between the 5th and 10th of January, Xavier plays Nova on the 7th. I hope Villanova can pick up a win there. That's just my bias coming through. But yeah, I really don't have anything else to add on this other than one guy I wanted to point out. New career high off the bench in 20 minutes of action for Xavier. That's Jerome Hunter. He was 3 of 4, shooting a 9 of 9 from the foul line, added 5 rebounds. He was extremely impressive, and he's going to be a key piece for this team if they're going to make a deeper run.
And those depth minutes are so important. We know that Xavier's top 5, or maybe as good as any top 5 in the country right now, the way that they're actually playing, getting your 6th and your 7th men involved that's what puts you over the top. It's what can put you over the top. Yeah. I think that's a good way to transition to this Villanova Marquette game, because I think it's a Villanova team that has struggled to get its depth players involved. Angelo Brizzi transferring, entering the portal there, so that just happened, versus a Marquette team that has no issues getting depth involved. That's the way they win. Marquette goes into the Finn on New Year's Eve and wins a game. They come back after being down at halftime, I believe, to pull that one out 68-66. And that was a really, really good game. That was an entertaining ending to watch. Just a note on this one. Marquette is the first team to win 2 games, first road team to win 2 games at the Finn in 1 calendar year since Providence back in 1993, because they won back in January. They get this game in before December. Big East games happening kind of before the new year in a season is a somewhat new thing. So that's one of the reasons you have to go that far back. There was a stretch there where they didn't play games before the new year, but kind of crazy to see a team go into that building in 1 year and win twice. And Marquette had never won in the Finn before 2022 either.
Yeah, I told you guys, listen to Matt. He's the stat man. You were texting me that like during the game. I'm like, I don't want to look this up right now. It's still a close game. Yeah, it was interesting that you brought up that that Villanova was up at halftime. They haven't lost a game while being up at halftime all year, and Marquette hadn't won a game while being down at halftime all year. And as soon as I saw that stat come on the TV, I was like, God damn it. Like, come on. You knew what was going to happen. But yeah, I mean, this was just another example of how this defense is really impacting this Villanova team right now. I love Kyle Neptune. I love all the decisions he's been making regarding the starters, and you saw Cam Whitmore inserted into the starting lineup in this game, but he's not immune to criticism either. I think having Cam Whitmore on the bench during that stretch where Marquette made their run in the second half, like a 8-minute stretch in the second half. Cam Whitmore was on the bench the whole time. That's inexcusable. he's the best player in that gym. He needs to be on the floor. It's inexcusable. Inexcusable,
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah, that's tough. I One of the other notes I had from this, I had tweeted out at the half, like, yeah, this Villanova defense has not looked great so far, but these guys keep shooting like this, it's not going to matter. Well, they didn't. 44
Yeah.
points in the first half, 22 in the second half, and I think this has kind of been that's where the depth has been an issue for Villanova. They just haven't had guys that can consistently knock down those shots like in years past.
And that was where Shaka was licking his chops. If he wants to get into a game with Villanova where it's a shootout, they're going to win that 10 times out of 10, not even 9 times out of 10. They're going to win it 10 times out of 10. Villanova is not a team that can win games in a shootout. They're a slow down the pace, methodical offense. And going back and forth with Cam Jones, he came down and hit 3 threes in a row, and you're just like, come on. Every time Villanova scored, Marquette had an answer, and that's just not going to win you games in this conference.
No. And it's a Marquette team that is very prone to going on runs, and a Villanova defense right now that is not going to offer a lot of resistance once a team actually gets hot. And this is the worst Villanova defense in the last decade.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like it. It looks like it too. It's not pretty.
So
Silver,
now, go ahead.
Yeah, silver lining for Villanova. I mean, the first half was very promising. I felt pretty comfortable going into halftime that they were going to be able to not continue shooting the way that they were going to, but I thought that they were going to take over the game in the second half. They're usually better in the second half than they are in the first, but this was really a game that Villanova needed to win to put a signature conference on their resume, because going to Marquette and winning in Fiserv is extremely hard. So you needed to get this one. They dropped it, and they're going to have to go streaking, Matt, because it might not matter by the time Justin Moore comes back.
This is the danger for Villanova right now, is that this team really cannot afford to be losing games at home in conference play. Road wins are hard. You got to take care of the easy ones, and this isn't, or not even the easy ones, the ones in the middle that are winnable, which is exactly what this is. Marquette's been a better team than Villanova this year, but you're playing at home. So this is the one you have to get. Like you said, you're probably not winning the road one, so you got to find a way to get this one, and they didn't. And now to offset this, you probably got to win a game that's going to end up being harder. You probably got to win a road game somewhere, or you got to beat UConn when they come to town. Things like that. Otherwise, a 7-3 or 8-2 home record in the Big East for Villanova, that might not get it done. You might not be a tournament team when all is said and done, unless you're picking up some big road win. So Villanova is in a very tough spot right now. I do want to talk about Marquette here for a second, because that Marquette defense is also impressive. They held Villanova scoreless for nearly the last 4 minutes of this game, in a game that was decided by 2 points. Coming back on the road at Villanova is always a tough task with that crowd environment. Stevie Mitchell was electric. Cam Jones was good. They put together what they needed to do to win this game. There's only 2 baskets in the last 4 minutes, only one in the last 2 minutes. But that one in the last 2 minutes was Marquette, and that's all I needed. Shaka Smart prides himself on defense. So it was a huge win for Marquette. I was very surprised to see the Golden Eagles not back in the top 25. I wouldn't have dropped them out after the loss at Providence. With a win like this on the road, I would have put them right back in. I can't believe that they aren't ranked right now.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. They need to be ranked. And the Villanova loss was 100%. Marquette outplayed them. It wasn't. I mean, Villanova turned the ball over a little bit more than they usually do, but Marquette simply outplayed them on their home court. They played an outstanding game. Osa Ighodaro, seeing him play, like watching a full game, like locked in, he's outstanding. The announcers couldn't get over his play, talking about how he's going to be in NBA town. I 100% agree with that. I talked about it in the New Year's resolution a little bit. They have everything you need to make a deep run. And after being ranked 9th in the preseason coaches poll, they're making a lot of people look stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. So credit to Shaka Smart. They're awesome stuff. Awesome job that he's done. Let's run through just some of these other stories quickly here. The other big story is going to be Georgetown. They lost twice last week. Followed DePaul in a close one. Get absolutely destroyed at home by Butler. I'm assuming, did you see the Hilltop Hoop stuff that was going on at the game?
With the signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Shout
Yeah,
out
for
Hilltop Hoops,
context,
by the way.
yeah, awesome content over there. Hilltop Hoops guys, Georgetown media who cover the team, and also some fans, alumni there, and some of the guys brought signs to the game saying we need a new coach, and those signs were confiscated there. This is also they've been kind of shadow banned from asking any questions at press conferences. They don't get called on anymore, even though they're a media org that covers them. This is why they've taken to bringing signs to the events because they can't send a message any other way, and it's. I think it's pretty clear what Georgetown needs to do at this point. You just got absolutely embarrassed on your home floor by Butler in the first game of the year about the team that just lost earlier this week. Obviously, it's a desperate Butler team, but there's not that sizable of a talent differential between Butler and Georgetown. And quite frankly, there's only one game left with no coaching changes. There's only one winnable game left on the schedule for Georgetown, and that's when DePaul comes to town.
Yeah, but I don't know how they don't see it. Maybe they do. And I was reading that Washington Post article with the Hilltop Hoops guys in it, and they were talking about they have the money to free Ewing from his contract, but I don't know. It's beyond me. But for Butler, this was a good win. This was a great win after that Providence game. I want to give some credit to Butler and Jaden Taylor. He had 24 points off the bench. He looked outstanding. 9 of 11, 6 of 8 from deep. Manny Bates looked good, 15 and 6. This was a amazing bounce back by Butler. It's exactly what they needed. If you're not following Michael DeRosa on Twitter, go follow him immediately. He is a character and a half. His mannerisms from his videos from after the Providence game to the one from after the Georgetown game are just night and day in contrast, and they are perfect in their own way. So little Road to the Garden writer plug, Michael DeRosa. I think it's Butler's only fan on Twitter. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So that's a big win for Butler. Good to see them put it all together in a way that they hadn't done in conference play. Let's see how it translates to other opponents. And yeah, Georgetown, it's a head coaching situation. There's a dead man walking at this point. I don't think anybody believes he could possibly be back next season. That cannot happen. And it's just whether or not they're going to pull the plug now during the season or whether or not we're waiting until after this. If he comes back next year, that is malpractice of the highest order when it comes to running a college sports team.
I don't think he should be back for the Villanova game on Wednesday. I mean,
no, he shouldn't be.
Yeah, like
he really shouldn't be.
The word malpractice, what it is. I mean, Georgetown has the talent, and you saw the reports that in the locker room the players were fired up. It's reaching a boiling point over at Georgetown, and somebody has to do something. This was a once proud program in Georgetown, and you're watching it crumble right now. It's awful. It's awful. Georgetown being good is great for the Big East, and they're not even bad right now. They're abysmal. Something needs to change, and it needs to change now.
Yep. They're at 242 in the net at the moment. They have.
Give me some teams around them.
Oh, let me pull this up here. I was looking at I'm looking at the conference ones. Let me get to the actual teams here. Give me a sec. 242.
I know you got to scroll a ways.
So usually when we do this exercise of what are the teams around them, it's a whole host of teams from small conferences. But no. Georgetown at 242 is sandwiched directly between the ACC's Florida State and the Big Ten's Minnesota.
Wow. I'm surprised Syracuse isn't lumped in there with like Louisville as well.
Well, they're not quite that low yet. Let me see where
Really?
Q's is in here. I don't think they are. I think they're in the mid 100s. So yeah, Syracuse is at 138. Syracuse has not been good this year, but they have not been Louisville bad. Florida State beat Louisville, so where is Louisville in this? They're gonna be
check the threes.
Yeah, 347 between Binghamton and Central Connecticut. 2 spots ahead of Merrimack.
All right, my grandfather. Shout out to him, Merrimack alum. That's amazing.
Who's the team? Stonehill. Where is Stonehill in this? That becomes my next question because this is their first year at D1. They're at 297. Stonehill.
No.
So how about this for you? Stonehill is 1 spot ahead of Cal.
That is a funny ranking system, isn't it?
Cal is 2-13 this year. The Bears lost their first, I believe, 10 games, including one at home to Butler, which is still, I
Butler,
think, the
yeah.
most bizarre scheduling decision I've seen yet this season. Why anybody would do that, I have no idea. But yeah, that Cal program is abysmal. So Georgetown, not the worst program out there right now, and not even the worst formerly proud program, because you got Louisville and all that. But they are the one that decided to stick with their coach after seeing this exact same thing last year. It's just
Yeah.
Dante Harris transferring out now too. They can't keep talent. There's talent on this team. You have to make sure that talent stays for next year. Bottom line, you got to figure out something else here.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
nothing really much else to say. Everyone knows what needs to happen except for the Georgetown administration for some reason. So I'm surprised Syracuse is in the 130s. Jim Boeheim is on a fast track to driving that program into the ground like Georgetown. I mean, when people ask me
He's
why
going to
Jay
retire
Wright
soon.
retired, yeah. When people ask me why Jay Wright retired, I said, look at Jim Boeheim. Look at what he's doing to that program up there. It's sometimes you just got to let it go.
Syracuse does have a win like at Notre Dame. They've got a win at home against the Cornell team that's actually in the top 100 right now. They smoked Georgetown too by nearly 20 points. So yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that's where that's at. We'll just finish up with other Big East news here from the end of 2022 and beginning here of 2023. First story, Providence. Friars keep rolling. 4-0 in the Big East now for the first time in program history. They smoked Butler last week. That game was 9-9 in the early minutes, and then the Friars went on a 25-3 run, I believe it was, and Providence completed the trip to the Midwest and DePaul, ended up handling DePaul with relative ease in a game that was very weird. Devin Carter in those two games had 21 and 22 points. He was our Big East player of the week. A little surprised to see him not get the nod from the conference with how he played. But Providence is working its way up. This is a top 50 team of the net now, a top 50 team in KenPom ahead of a game against UConn later this week that we're going to be getting to. And I think the other story here, Seton Hall gets their first Big East win at home against St. John's. I think they looked really good in that game. I think that's as good as Seton Hall can look right there. That was a really nice performance to put together. We'll see how that translates against other opponents, obviously, but a nice moment there for Shaheen Holloway in year one.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned before, Seton Hall's really impressed me these last couple of games. I didn't think that they had it, and they're making me eat crow. So, especially on the offensive end, I always knew that they were good defensively, but they've looked much better on the offensive end. And as a Villanova fan, and I assume as fans of the cluster in the middle of the conference, I think Providence is in the top of the middle tier or the bottom of the top tier in the conference. But teams like Providence, Villanova, Creighton, they're not going to want to play this Seton Hall team. This is a scrappy team. And if they don't bring their A, maybe B game, it's not even a trap game. It's a game that Seton Hall can just straight up win.
Yeah. Friars already picked up a win at Seton Hall, so I think that's actually huge for Providence that 3 of those 4 wins here to start off conference play have been on the road. I think based on the non-conference resume, Providence probably needs 12 Big East wins to go dancing, and they already have 4. So a 500 record down the stretch probably gets Providence in, and if they do that, I think we're looking at a minimum of 5 teams in the dance. I think all the teams that are in the top 50 would make it in that scenario, and it would depend what would happen with Butler, Seton Hall, Villanova, kind of the teams there on the edge, and St. John's too. St. John's hanging around. St. John's has not beaten a good team this year. So I don't think I can take that resume. They're 0-4 against, I think, KenPom top 100 teams, 0-3 on the road. I might have those reversed. But yeah, 0-3 on the road, 0-4 against top 100. And yeah, it's until you beat a good team, I can't really take anything about St. John's seriously at the moment.
Yeah, their strength of schedule is up there. I think last time I checked, it was in like the 300s in KenPom. St. John's strength of schedule, at least their non-conference strength of schedule was.
They're not 338 is their non-conference strength of schedule in KenPom.
Out of what, 363?
Yeah, it's not good.
No, not good at all. What are we even doing here with St. John's? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Do we want to get into talking about the games this week, because we got St. John's immediately here in the first game Tuesday night?
Yeah, let's just get right into it.
All right, we'll shift gears. We'll look ahead to the schedule. As always, I think we're going to have our Wednesday night show this week. It's going to be a late night show, but we'll have our Wednesday night show. So we're going to look here at the 5 games played between now and then, and that's going to start Tuesday night with a Marquette at St. John's game, 6:30 Eastern on FS1. This one, I think, could be a track meet. These are two teams that like to press and get out. St. John's always one of the fastest teams in the country. Marquette is, I think, 82 in tempo right now. So you put the two of them together, and I think both teams just might end up in the 80s for points by default. St. John's at home. I think, is this a must win for the Red Storm?
I think it is. Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit in the New Year's resolution section. Their next 5 games are all against decent opponents. I think Butler is their quote unquote worst team that they face in there. But if St. John's wants to push for that 6th bid in this conference and that large bid, they need to start winning. They need to start winning now. Has to happen with Marquette. Marquette is a team they can defend on a very high level, but they've been impressive on the offense and defense. So it's going to be really tough. I know St. John's is at home, but it's going to be really tough this game.
Yeah, I think, and this is Marquette here with that trip to the East Coast, playing at Villanova, playing at St. John's. If Marquette can pick up 2 wins here, I think that says a lot about where that program is too. Again, can't believe they're not ranked. I think I'd have to pick Marquette in this one too. I think it's a good matchup for St. John's. I think Marquette is just a better team here.
Yeah, and they're hitting their stride right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games, and one of those losses was that overtime loss against Providence and knocked them out of the top 25, questionably. I agree with you. I don't think they should be out of the top 25, but Marquette is battle tested, and that is one thing that St. John's is not. Marquette has wins over teams like Villanova, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. So I like Marquette in this one, and if it's a game that I think it could be, which is a Marquette double-digit win, it's going to look really bad for this Red Storm team. They need to stop the bleeding. They honestly, they have the talent, they have the defense, the backcourt play, Curbelo and Posh. They have the talent to win this game. They have to put it together, and it has to be this game. This is a must-win for St. John's.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was watching the Xavier St. John's game last week, all I could think of was, I'm not sure if you could draw up a guard who is a better fit for what St. John's does this year than Sule Boom. He came to the conference. He just didn't go to that team. And a guy who's a 3-level scorer like that, who can knock down the shots from the outside and play in transition and all that stuff that he does, that is what St. John's is missing. They got a lot of pieces, but they have nothing that makes it work consistently in the half court. And this is year 3 or 4 in a row of that being the case. If you lose this game and it isn't close, then that Mike Anderson seat gets real hot in a hurry.
Yeah, if it's not already hot. Yeah. Who's your pick in this one?
I'm going Marquette, and I don't think it's that close either. And I like some of what St. John's does, but they play the same style, and I think Marquette is just way better at it, and that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, we're on the same page here. I'm a little nervous that I said double digits because we do have receipt keepers on Twitter that that come after us, but we love it. Hold us accountable. But yeah, Marquette should win this game, and they should win it easily.
The late night tip on Tuesday, it's going to be Seton Hall at Creighton. This is a Creighton team that has not played since Christmas, so Blue Jays should be well rested. This will be the 8:30 Eastern tip again on FS1. So a doubleheader here Tuesday night on FS1 for the Big East. I'm intrigued to see how this Seton Hall team travels, if that defense can play well at Omaha, because this is a Creighton team that has struggled with turnovers. Seton Hall likes to force them. I think Seton Hall could mix it up and make this one more interesting than people might think.
100% agree. 100% agree. It's just going to be what Seton Hall team shows up. They, like I said, impressed me against St. John's offensively. But if this Creighton team isn't hitting shots, they could be on upset watch. They're projected to win 72-64 on KenPom. I think it could be closer than that regardless. But I still do give Creighton the slight edge. I mean, they're just too talented. They're just too talented. They're well coached. Not that Seton Hall isn't, but I mean, Creighton's just too talented.
Yeah, and this feels like one of those games where Ryan Kalkbrenner will be the difference maker, or Seton Hall might be able to get things going and mix it up early and make it rough, make it difficult, force turnovers, and score that way. But I don't think Seton Hall is going to score on Creighton in the half court, and I don't think they're going to have a good answer for Kalkbrenner consistently. And this feels like one of those games to me that's close for like 3/4 of it, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's a 10 or a 12-point game. And Creighton ends up winning by a margin that looks comfortable, even though the game was competitive.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like what you said about how it's good that Providence kind of got their win against Seton Hall out of the way, because I feel like the Seton Hall team is finally hitting its stride. I think if this game was played a little bit later, it's going to be a lot closer game later in the year when Creighton goes back to Newark.
Yes.
But yeah, I think right now at this point of the year, Creighton's going to get this win against Seton Hall out of the way, and it's going to set up for hopefully a real nice rematch later this year.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one. If these two teams had played a couple of weeks ago, I think Seton Hall's going to have a real decent chance too. If they get Creighton without Kalkbrenner, then I think there's a lot more equal. But yeah, it's Seton Hall has the same issue St. John's does when it comes to half court offense. And playing against the Creighton defense that's as good as this one has routinely been the last 2 seasons, that's never going to be what makes your offense click. Not unless we get something real weird going on in this one. So yeah, I'm going to take Creighton to win and cover that Ken Palm spread there.
Yeah, I think that's a good number. 8 points. Reason I wasn't a math major, but yeah, I like that. I like that 8-ish point. 5 to 10 is where I'm at. Creighton.
Yeah. We'll move ahead here to Wednesday night. Wednesday night has the Fox Sports doubleheader once again, plus a late tip on CBS Sports Network. We're going to start with that first game. Villanova at Georgetown, 6:30 Eastern on FS1. I'm not even sold that Patrick Ewing is still going to be the coach for Georgetown once this game ends up happening. We'll see what goes on in the next coming hours and days. This is obviously one Villanova can't afford to lose. Do you think there's any way Georgetown can win it?
I actually do. And you go back to the Temple game that Villanova played on the road. Now, obviously, Temple's a better team than Georgetown, but not much better. And Villanova is, I think, tenfold the team that they were when they played at Temple. But Temple has 2 guys on their team, Caleb Battle and Dunn. I think his first name is DeMarco or DeMario. Don't quote me on that. I apologize, Mr. Dunn from Temple, but I know his last name's Dunn. So they have the 2 pieces on the 2 guards that really just torched Villanova all night. And I think Georgetown has that in Primo Spears and Brandon Murray. There is a world where Villanova drops this and the season's over. I mean, that's it. If Villanova loses, it's it. I don't see that happening, though. No. Villanova is just way too talented. This isn't go in there, bring your C game, and just cruise to victory. They're going to have to earn this one. But I think that this game is going to be a little bit more uncomfortable for Villanova than maybe some think.
Yeah, that Georgetown offense is good enough to keep the Hoyas in games, especially with that Nova defense. So I'd like you calling that out because that is a really interesting matchup. I think this could also be a get-right game for Villanova. I think this is one of those where they might struggle a little bit, and then they turn it on, and you really see the difference between the 2 teams. I'm going to take Villanova. I think they cover. I'll put this kind of like the Creighton-Seton Hall game where it might be closer than people think for most of it, but then by the end, the final score looks about how you would expect it to anyway. Before we move on to the next game, we have actually a little bit of breaking news here, not on the Patrick Ewing front, but just looking forward here in the Big East. We were talking about St. John's, their non-conference schedule this year and how bad it was. Well, the Red Storm just finalized a home-and-home series with Texas Tech for next season. With the first game will be at MSG next year, and then the return trip to Lubbock, Texas, the year after. That's a fun one. I like that.
That was not the breaking news I thought you were going to throw out. My heart just sank. I'm not going to lie. I was like, no way you just called Patrick Ewing getting fired out on the podcast. But no, that'll come out a couple hours later. Just kidding, but maybe.
I'm sure
No,
that'll happen right after we wrap this up.
100%. That's how it always works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that home and home for St. John's. It's ambitious, but it's always good to actually play some teams before you go into conference play because you see what's happening when they don't.
Yeah. Also interesting to see that happen with the Big East Big 12 battle still a thing, and it got extended. So the Big East Big 12 battle should also be played for both of the years that agreement's in place with St. John's and Texas Tech. So I'm assuming one of those teams is probably, or both of those teams are going to be out for one of the years in the rotation anyway with that. But this means St. John's might get 2 Big 12 games in non-conference play one of these years, and Texas Tech might see 2 Big East teams. So something to monitor there. I like that, and I like teams scheduling aggressively. Yeah, it makes everything more fun.
Yeah, there definitely has to be some balance. Like you need to play a Stonehill or a team above 300 in the Ken Palm rankings every now and then, but you definitely can't cakewalk your way to conference play because again, you see what's happening with St. John's.
And you're not going to fool everybody. You're not going to fool anybody. Everybody knows how meaningless the wins are, and win total doesn't mean everything. This right here is where Ken Palm and metrics like that can be important, because if you're playing bad teams and you're winning, but you're not really playing that well in it, that can tell you the difference between. It can help evaluate the difference between, oh, they got a 12-point win against LIU, and this team had a 1-point loss to Indiana. Well, one goes down as a win, one goes down as a loss, but that is not the full story when it talks about how actually productive either team is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our game of the week, which is going to be the next one here. The UConn Huskies, the now number 4 team in the country, on the road yet again. They're going to travel to the AMP to take on the Providence Friars. This is the first time that these two teams have met in Providence with fans since UConn returned to the Big East. I got a couple notes here for you on this one. The first, last time I checked, the weather in Providence for Wednesday night is supposed to be warm, high 50s. We may be looking at another slippery floor, sweaty floor type game.
The fact that that's
in a big moment
is embarrassing. That you have to give a weather report before this game.
Hey, didn't Villanova just have its own slippery floor issues on Sunday there, Saturday night?
I don't know. I wasn't there. No comment.
No, they did. They did have their issues, so it's this happens. But yeah, that's that could be a factor here. A slippery floor is absolutely in the forecast. Although I am checking now, and it looks like, yeah, the current forecast, by the time this tips off at 8:30 Eastern, it might get down into the 40s. If that's the case, I don't think we're going to have an issue. But yeah, you never know. You never know. The thing that I think is actually more important to what's been going on the floor, the Friars got off to that rocky start. Devin Carter, after their loss at TCU, tweeted out basically kind of an apology to the fans, saying, "This isn't who we are. You're going to see a different team starting the next game." Well, Friars have not lost since that point. They did not lose in December. This is 2 years in a row now that the Friars did not lose a December game. They're one of 2 4-0 teams in the Big East right now. They are 7-0 since December 1st. Now, if you guys know the Bart Torvik website, it's basically free KenPom. You can filter that by date. If you filter by efficiency starting December 1st, UConn is the 7th best team in the country. Providence is the 8th best team in the country since that point. These are 2 of the hottest teams in basketball that are going to be squaring off Wednesday night, and this is as interesting a matchup as we get in the Big East.
Hey, Matt, fill this out. Where ranked teams
come to die. That Devin Carter also tweeted that one out before Marquette game to Providence. That dude talks. Yeah. He told me after the DePaul game, he told me his New Year's resolution is to win every game.
I think that should be every team's New Year's resolution. That's a real ambitious one. But yeah, I mean, give me Providence at home here. I mean, this feels like, if you go back a couple days, a couple weeks, it feels a lot like this Marquette-Creighton game where Providence is really seeming to hit their stride, in UConn, although they haven't looked, bad, they do seem to be kind of cooling off from that red-hot start. that they had in the beginning of the year. So give me Providence at home in this one. This is going to be probably the best game of the month.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big opportunity for a get right game for UConn. Dan Hurley's a good coach. They have to know that they haven't been quite playing up to their standard. You play the close game against Georgetown, you lose to Xavier, and you beat teams. UConn's been good. UConn has not been as good as the team that we saw win the Phil Knight Invitational. They've still been good. They haven't been at that level probably since that point, and that happens. They can play at that level. This is the chance where, all right, you're on the road. People think you're going to lose. They think you're vulnerable. This is where good teams can oftentimes find that next switch and tap back into it again. I think we're going to see a very motivated, fired up UConn team come out in this one. What I'm interested in is that Xavier, I think, proved that UConn has some vulnerabilities in the paint. Is a Providence team that basically does not shoot the three ball, that lives off of offensive rebounds on the offensive end, and is one of the most efficient offenses in college basketball doing it. Ed Croswell is a monster with offensive boards, and the Ed Croswell-Adama Sanogo matchup becomes very interesting for me for this one to see if Croswell can hold his own against the presumed player of the year in the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle on the boards there. That's going to be fun to watch. And I think Bryce Hopkins is really going to be the X factor in this game. See if he can kind of stretch out some of those smaller bigs on UConn. Him against Andre Jackson, I figure they'll most likely be on each other. That's going to be great to watch. And this is going to be a really good game. If you watch one Big East game this week, make it be this one, because it is going to be just an outstanding battle between these two teams.
Fans are going to be getting into this one. It's going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be rowdy. I wouldn't be surprised to see people filling that arena up as soon as possible. They're going to get the tall boys going. I know Ed Cooley was kind of calling for that after the DePaul games, and he wants to see the crowd getting into it for this game. And it'll be a good test of composure now for Dan Hurley after what happened in the last one. If he gets a technical in this game, the fans are going to lose their minds. And it's going to be a test for UConn. How do you handle being in an environment like that? So obviously the Cintas Center always rocking. They lost that one. Can they bounce back and prove that they can win in an environment like that? It's funny. You mentioned Bryce Hopkins. As of this moment, he is the second best player in the conference, according to KenPom. It's Adama Sanogo number 1, Bryce Hopkins number 2. And that's with Bryce Hopkins not even playing his best basketball last week. So two of the best players in the conference are going to be going at it in this one. Two of the best teams. I think Providence should probably be ranked with a win. I don't think UConn should really be penalized for a loss here unless they look bad doing it.
Yeah,
could be a chance. I mean, the Friars start off 5-0 here in Big East play. This is something.
Yeah, who's 3, 4, and 5 on KenPom? Do you have that up?
Yes, I do. 3 is. I told you I had it up and I was lying. Now I have it. 3 is Eric Dixon. 4 is Baylor Shireman. 5 is Jack Nungy.
Wow, 2 transfers.
Yeah, a couple of them in there. And I think it's notable. Sule Boom isn't in there, but I think he could be. Klingon was in there, but has fallen out. A couple guys there who I think could make a showing. And yeah, it's quite a race there for Player of the Year and Big Man of the Year in the Big East. Fun stuff going on. Excited, very excited for Wednesday night, 8:30 on Fox Sports 1. It'll probably be a little bit. We'll probably tip a little bit later than 8:30. It'll probably be close to like an 8:40 tip off if you're looking to tune into that one. So should be a fantastic game. I'm actually going to predict that UConn wins this one, just because I don't even think it has anything to do with Providence. I think these two teams are very evenly matched. I think UConn is just a little bit better at most spots except Bryce Hopkins, and I think that defense is going to be good. And this just feels like UConn's an elite team this year, and this is one of those situations where they just find a way to win.
Yeah, nothing would surprise me in this game. I know I say that a lot, but it's honestly true. I think I'm going to give the edge to Providence just because they're at home, but yeah, this is going to be a great one.
Yeah, and since the start of last season, Providence only with 1 loss on this floor, and it was to Villanova last year. That's it, and that was a close one. So Friars do not lose home games. They didn't play at this building in the COVID year or the year before that. They only lost 3 home games, and 2 of those were in the non-conference. So, no, sorry, only 1 was in the non-conference. 2 came very early in Big East play, and they won all their ones down the stretch. So yeah, this is a building that's very tough to go into as an opponent, as hard as any building in the Big East. We'll see what happens. Let's talk about the late game here before we get out of here. The CBS Sports game on Wednesday night is going to be DePaul at Butler. This is an intriguing matchup. I think this is a must-win for Butler to keep tournament hopes alive. This is a nice chance for DePaul to bounce back and play spoiler and get a quality win against a team that isn't Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like this is going to be a team of what team shows up. And Butler, in this case, is it going to be the team that just blew Georgetown out, or is it going to be the team that just got blown out on their home floor? Nothing surprises me with Butler. They should win. DePaul loves to get out and run and gun, but they can be a little careless when they do so. And Butler's a good team defensively, not really around the 3-point arc. DePaul starts hitting stride there. That's going to be dangerous. I would assume would be DePaul's game plan, their key to victory in this one. But I'm still going to go with Butler.
Yeah, I think I agree. I like Butler this year, and at home, I think they're just a better team here. What could be interesting is if Caleb Murphy ends up coming back for DePaul. He's a really good defensive guard, and he could kind of be a difference maker. I don't know if he's ready for that yet. I'm not sure exactly where his health is. So if any DePaul fans want to let me know about that, please do. But yeah, I'll take Butler. I don't feel great about it, but I'll take the Bulldogs.
It's like if you had to take one.
Yeah. All right. That is going to do it for this week's episode then, our first episode of 2023. So make sure you guys keep listening. We appreciate anybody that is. Come subscribe to our YouTube so you can see our video content here. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to this. Follow us on Twitter. We're going to have some articles coming out this week too to preview and recap these games. So follow along at our Road to the Garden website. As always, that is Tommy Godin. I'm Matt St. Jean. We're going to be back with you later this week. And as always,